good afternoon. Welcome to This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta. We're learning more details today about the school shooting that happened in Perry, Iowa yesterday. Now, sadly, many of the young victims were children, including a sixth grader who was killed. CBS's Ed O'Keefe was on the political trail in Iowa, but was diverted to cover this story for CBS News.
Listen to your children pray.
In Perry, Iowa, a somber vigil capped a tragic day.
And you really have to start thinking like, oh, this could happen at my school, this could happen here.
It began when multiple law enforcement agencies rushed to the scene shortly after 7:30 Thursday morning.
Units, we've got an active shooter situation at Perry High School.
Local police say they arrived within 7 minutes of receiving the call and came upon a grisly scene.
Appears to be self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Police say they soon determined the shooter, 17-year-old Dylan Butler, had taken his own life, but not before he killed one sixth grader and wounded 5 others, including 4 students and the school's principal. And he didn't stop there.
Officers located, during the search of the school, an improvised explosive device. The state fire marshal and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms rendered the device safe.
Investigators say the shooter was armed with a pump-action shotgun and small caliber handgun and appeared to act alone.
It was absolutely horrifying.
Among the survivors, Jody Kurth's stepson Xander, who was grazed by a bullet during the shooting.
One of the worst moments of my entire life, but the best phone call I got was saying that they were okay.
The incident comes less than 2 weeks before the GOP primaries are set to kick off here in Iowa. The state's Republican governor, Kim Reynolds, visited the scene Thursday.
How should the candidates running for president talk about what happened today and the issue of schools violence generally?
I'll let them decide how they're going to talk about it.
All the surviving victims were hospitalized, and authorities say their injuries aren't considered life-threatening. Investigators don't yet have any sense of a motive, but they are looking into some social media posts the shooter made around the time of the shooting. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Perry, Iowa.
Turning now to international news and the latest out of Japan. Days after a 7.6 magnitude earthquake caused widespread damage in Japan, an 80-year-old woman was rescued beneath the rubble of her home. More than 200 people remain missing. Crews are continuing to search for survivors today. The earthquake has forced some 33,000 people to evacuate their homes, and at least 94 people have been killed so far. As strong aftershocks continue to rattle the region, a renowned MMA coach from Hawaii who trains fighters in Japan is now on a mission to help earthquake survivors in the Ishikawa prefecture on the west coast. Ensign Inoi is driving a cargo van packed with more than $2,000 worth of supplies to the remote area of Machinomachi. The trip has now taken over 16 hours from his home in Saitama due to cracked roads, jutting pavement, and downed trees. Inoi delivered supplies after the 2011 tsunami and says he felt compelled to show support again because of the great need for help.
A friend called me to let me know that one of her friends don't have food, baby supplies, or anything. If I could help a single person, it would help. If I could get some supplies, make them a little warmer at night, give them some stuff that would make them a little less stressful, because they've lost, some of these people lost everything.
Now, if you want to help with his efforts, you can donate directly to his nonprofit, the Ensign Inoi Foundation. We have a link posted on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com. Also out of Japan today, smoke was still billowing from the 2 planes that collided on Tuesday at Tokyo's Haneda Airport runway. 5 crew members aboard a smaller Coast Guard aircraft were killed when it collided with a Japan Airlines passenger plane. All 379 people aboard the passenger plane made it out safely before it was engulfed in flames. New details now on a murder out of California with Hawaii ties. The ex-boyfriend of a Hawaii woman who was missing in California has been arrested for her murder. Police and sheriffs booked Theobald Lenguel on Tuesday in Santa Cruz for allegedly killing Alice Kamako Kalani Herman. The 61-year-old woman was last seen December 3rd in Santa Cruz. Police found her SUV at Lenguel's home in El Cerrito, but say he would not cooperate with the investigation, and it became clear that foul play was involved. Now, officers eventually found human remains about 4 miles away in a wooded area in a park. They have yet to be positively identified. Back here at home, an inmate is dead and another is hospitalized following a suspected drug overdose in a Hilo jail cell. Our Ben Gutierrez spoke with an expert who says this is a prime example of the great lengths that criminals are taking to get their fix behind bars.
The State Corrections Department says the 2 inmates shared the same cell at the Hawaii Community Correctional Center. And while the cause of death is still under investigation, sources tell us revival attempts with Narcan, an opioid overdose reversal drug, failed. First responders rushed to HCCC just before 1 o'clock. While one of the men is now recovering, the other was pronounced dead only a half hour later.
The situation now is grave, and the reason is that there's a huge flood market of drugs in the nation.
Hawaii isn't immune to that flood. Inside the same jail as the suspected overdose, a Kona couple accused of smuggling more than 60 grams of fentanyl through Kona International Airport last week. A judge denied a bail reduction for Isaiah Shields and maintained his bond at $75,000. Mariah Golette will be arraigned next Friday.
1 gram contains 1,000 milligrams of fentanyl, and it only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl to kill you.
Gary Yabuta heads the Federal Hawaii High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Office, but also served as a corrections officer early in his career.
We were very strict. We did body cavity searches after visits. We screened mail, but yet drugs come in.
Yabuta says in the past, hard drugs like heroin were smuggled in, but now it's drugs like fentanyl, ecstasy, and methamphetamine, which can come in liquid form.
It's like LSD back in the 1970s. It's a blotter. And so when it dries, it becomes active again with saliva inside of a person's mouth.
In March last year, 5 women were arrested for allegedly smuggling drugs through the mail into Oahu prisons. Investigators in the sting, dubbed Operation Paper Shredder, say corrections officers intercepted letters and envelopes soaked with drugs. In those cases, authorities say the women were influenced by inmates.
Anybody that has a visitation privilege with anybody that's incarcerated is capable of bringing in contraband. Imagine a bag of potato chips that has drugs within them by somebody who injected the drugs with a hypodermic needle into a bag of potato chips. You know, how hard is that for a correctional officer to find that minute hole and discover the drugs?
An autopsy is scheduled on the HCCC inmate who died today. His identity has not been released. Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
Honolulu Police Chief Joe Logan is standing by his department's handling of the New Year's Day fatal chase of an armed suspect. Monday's pursuit of armed felon and attempted murder suspect Sidney Tafokitau lasted about 9 hours and ended in the crowded University District with the suspect dead and 2 police officers wounded. Logan says he is open to changing policies that now ban tactics like spike strips and shoving vehicles into a spin.
There's a lot of Monday morning quarterback going on. Mm-hmm. Oh, we should have done, could have done. Those are like anything else. That's how you evaluate yourselves as an organization, and then you make changes based off of that.
Logan is also willing to look at whether the department should have warned the public that an armed suspect was being chased by police around the island. HPD has been heavily criticized for the lack of communication. And there's new information about an HPD corporal who recently slammed his subsidized vehicle into the back of a motorcyclist, causing serious injuries to the rider. While the department still refuses to tell us if it's looking into claims Vaisai Isala Jr. was driving under the influence that night, H&N Investigates uncovered court records that reveal why the 18-year veteran's previous DUI charge was dropped following another crash back in 2016. Our Allison Blair has the exclusive.
7 years ago, Vaisai Sala Jr. was arrested and charged with driving under the influence after crashing into a utility pole in Makakilo. But a jury found the corporal not guilty after a relative visiting from American Samoa testified he was the person behind the wheel.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
That's Frank Lafitte, a distant relative of HPD Corporal Visay Isela Jr.
Who is that to you?
My wife's uncle.
Lafitte testified that in August 2016, he made the trip from Pongo Pongo to Hawaii, in part to visit his two daughters who lived on Oahu. And during that 2-week vacation, he stayed with Isela. A day prior to his departure, he told jurors he attended a family gathering in Kalihi. He said Isela was there too.
How long was Visay at the party?
About 3 hours.
Visay did drink?
Yes, sir.
And what did he drink?
He was drinking Heineken and he was having shots of a Jägermeister.
Do you recall how much shots?
No, sure. They had quite a few, sir.
Lafitte testified the pair left the party about 2:30 that morning, saying he was the designated driver.
How did you get home?
I drove Visay's vehicle.
If you were driving, where was Visay?
Visay was situated in the back seat. He was complaining earlier about his back. It was acting up and he was tired.
Tell me what happened when you got to the Makakilo exit.
When I exited the freeway onto the Makakilo ramp, I dozed off. And when I came to, the car was straight to the light pole.
Lafitte testified there was no safe place to pull over at the scene of the crash, so he drove up the road towards Makakilo. By then, he said Isela was awake and angry. He said he pulled over twice, once so Isela could look at the damage. The second time,
he told me that, go ahead and walk home. I'll stay back and I'll take care of the accident.
So where did you go after that?
I walked straight home.
Court documents show Isela did not testify. A jury later found him not guilty of DUI and inattention to driving charges. Meanwhile, details about the HPD corporal's arrest that night remain unclear. At no point in Lafitte's testimony was there any mention of when officers arrived at the scene. So we asked HPD for a copy of the police report. On December 19th, the department confirmed the record could be released, but has yet to turn it over. At last check, an internal investigation into the officer's handling of Isela's latest crash continues. In September, records show the off-duty corporal slammed his subsidized police vehicle into the back of a motorcyclist near Aloha Stadium, leaving the rider seriously injured. Detectives eventually determined Isela caused the crash, but that's not what he told responding officers in this body camera video.
So there was a flood. He said that a bus hit his vehicle.
Law enforcement sources say prior to this latest crash, Isela had attended a party, but the crash report shows responding officers never gave him a breathalyzer test, and the box asking whether impairment was suspected was left blank. It also states when crash investigators showed up, Isela was gone, but makes no mention as to where he went. It wasn't until H&N Investigates made the case public, the department stripped Isela of his police powers and placed him on restricted duty. Chief Logan has said he will not speak to H&N Investigates about any of this until the department's internal investigation is complete. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
Your full forecast is coming up after a short break, but first let's send it over to our Drew Davis, who has a special augmented reality look at the cold front that's about to move through the islands.
Aloha, everybody. I want to walk you through the weather pattern because even though we're going to have a quiet couple of days throughout Friday and Saturday, we're going to see a big shift in the weather pattern starting this upcoming Monday and Tuesday. Let's bring up the globe really quickly. You can see right there, we've got a cold front off to our northwest that's going to slowly move across the state throughout Monday and Tuesday, and gusty Kona winds to our south. The Kona winds, if you know anything about them, provide a lot of moisture to the state of Hawaii. It's going to be very, very humid throughout Sunday, and all of that moisture is going to ride on top of the cold front, and what goes up must come back down. So heavy rainfall is in the forecast as that cold front moves slowly across the state throughout Monday, Tuesday, and even parts of Wednesday. Let's take a look at our first alert futurecast. You can see right there, Monday afternoon, heavy rainfall across the western parts of the state. Right now, the heaviest rainfall looks to be around Kauai and Oahu. Statewide rainfall by Tuesday afternoon and lingering showers throughout Wednesday. And we're already tracking another front that could arrive by the time we get to next Thursday and Friday. We're going to put the globe away really quickly. We're going to be tracking this cold front around the clock. Make sure to download the Hawaii News Now First Alert weather app to get the latest forecast.
Thank you so much, Drew. Let's send you live outside for a look at downtown Honolulu. Beautiful conditions on this Aloha Friday. Stay tuned after this short break. Billy V will have your full First Alert weather forecast.
Let's go ahead and get you your 7-day forecast, and we'll also give you an idea of what's going to be coming out for you as far as your weather is concerned. East-southeasterly winds are, that's going to be easterly to southeasterly winds, 10 to 20 miles per hour today and tomorrow. Here's where things change on Sunday. Sunday night going into Monday or possibly Monday. The timing is still of question. We're going to have southerly winds being pulled up from, rain and winds pulled up from the south due to a cold front that's going to be coming by. So let's kind of explain that real quickly. Low pressure here, and here comes the front. Actually, this is an upper level trough that's going to be joined by the cold front, and then so that's going to bring us southerly winds. The winds are going to come over the cold line. They'll speed up as they go over the windward side. So there's some potential for damage there as those winds get really, really breezy and gusty. And then as we pull this forward, you can see there's another front behind that that's going to be coming later on in the week. So this front could bring periods of heavy rain, tracking snow above 12,000 feet. That actually may be tonight into tomorrow, because that'll be probably the coldest of the next 3 nights. And then flooding conditions, slight chance of thunderstorms and potential downpours. So prepare now for Sunday night into Tuesday. Once again, First Alert weather for you.
Well, happy New Year, everyone. Lots of sports to start off the new year. Here to break it all down once again is Kyle Chin. And Kyle, UH volleyball off to a hot start this week. What a win against Loyola Chicago. They swept them. Kyle, that was crazy.
Yeah, and you know, with the new year comes a lot of new changes, and I think with the volleyball team comes that change. You have a pretty much new starting lineup, only 3 returning starters from a year prior, and obviously a lot of holes to fill, one being the setter position with Jakob Tella, All-American, all-everything, going to graduation, so have to fill the spot. They have a 17-year-old, a young kid, Tread Rosenthal, who got the starting nod on Wednesday night, and you know, it looked a little bit out of sorts at times, not the most polished UH team we've seen in years prior, but you know, they got the win. They were able to claw it out. And I think with this new addition, they're going to keep working on it.
That is very exciting. And we're going to continue on with UH football now. Lots of changes happening with the coaching staff. Timmy Chain making some moves this week.
Yeah, some moves. He is releasing 3 coaches on his staff, defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator Etienne. You have co-offensive coordinator Ian Shoemaker, and then defensive backs coach Steve Irvin. Those contracts were not renewed, and they will not be returning. They're on the hunt right now for the next the guys to fill those spots. He's making these business decisions for the betterment of the team, and we will see as the weeks progress in this offseason who will fill those spots in the coaching staff.
Talking about coaching positions, we got to switch now to high school because there was a major coaching position change for St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis school announced yesterday via a letter sent out to the community, then confirmed by us that St. Louis baseball coach George Gussman is not returning. He started coaching there in 2010. He took them to a state title in 2014, and they were kind of a perennial playoff team in the state as far as baseball goes, but he will not be returning next season, and he will be replaced by a familiar name if you're a baseball fan here in Hawaii, former MLB player. He made it to the World Series, kind of a New York Mets legend, Benny Agbayani. He will be taking over as the interim head coach for the 2024 season for St. Louis baseball, with the intention of making him the permanent head coach going forward. It was kind of a shock, I think, to the St. Louis community, and I think to baseball fans here, that they would make a coaching change despite, having a relatively successful baseball program.
Well, we will have to keep an eye on what happens over there. Stay tuned for the latest reports from Kyle, and also head to our podcast, HNN Overtime, for your latest sports updates.
Time to check out some news from the feeds. The king of rock and roll is once again hitting the stage, this time thanks to the help from AI. Now, the AI show kicks off in London this fall and will actually soon be heading toward the United States. CBS's Tina Kraus has the story.
The king of rock and roll is making a comeback nearly 50 years after his death.
It's going to be an incredible experience, a joyful celebration of Elvis's life.
Elvis Presley will hit the stage in London in November with the help of artificial intelligence. It's billed as an Elvis evolution, using AI and holographic projections of the star's iconic songs and moves, created from some of his greatest performances, along with thousands of personal photos and home videos.
So you're going to go on a journey from Memphis to Las Vegas, from New York to Los Angeles, and really understand what Elvis went through during his life.
From his humble beginnings in Mississippi and Tennessee, through his rise to fame as he sold some 500 million records worldwide, making him one of the biggest names in rock and roll history.
And the end of this experience is a real crescendo where you'll see a life-sized Elvis in AI perform some of his biggest hits.
Creators say the immersive experience, featuring live dancers alongside the King's AI images, will also travel to Las Vegas, Tokyo, and Berlin, shaking up a whole new generation of fans decades after Elvis himself left the stage. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Now, Elvis died from a heart attack at the age of 42, which was just 2 months after his final performance in 1977. On Monday, the iconic superstar would have been 89 years old. Well, if you have a New Year's resolution to get out, get active, and maybe even run a marathon, this next story is for you. Sam Reed spoke to a woman who just hit a marathon milestone.
Gangling down the stairs of 61-year-old Solange Morsette's Barrington home, her pride and joy is evident all over.
I've got all my medals hanging in the house. You know, it's kind of a reminder of the accomplishment and the fun I've shared with people.
In 2011, having watched the end of a half marathon, running was really never a thing for her.
And then I saw people in all shapes and sizes and all speeds, and I thought, maybe it can be me.
And after learning her dear friend Bob Cabral had passed away from cancer, she decided to run a half marathon in his honor.
I thought, I did it. I ran a half marathon. I'd never planned to run another one.
That is exactly what did not happen.
I have a bulletin board upstairs with every single race bib that I've ever run.
Because for the next 11 years, she established a regular routine.
I go sit on those stairs right there, put my shoes on, get my earbuds in, go outside, hit my music, hit my watch, and just go.
running half marathons consisting of 13.1 miles all around Rhode Island and southern New England.
Most of them I stayed in southern New England, but then when I got towards the end and I knew I was going to get to 100, I decided to travel for the last 10.
Pounding the pavement day after day has given her a sense of pride with her stride. Initially, she made a goal to get to 50 half marathons, then 75, and so on.
Next thing I knew, I was approaching 90, and I said, got to get to 100.
In November, Solange achieved her dream. She crossed the Golden Gate Bridge during her 100th half marathon.
I was wearing a 100 tiara.
That means she's run more than 1,300 meaningful miles with her marathons, not including anything unofficial.
I probably log at least 100 miles training for each one.
While this was all for fun and for a sense of accomplishment, Solange says the camaraderie amongst runners and communities alike has been breathtaking, like the runs.
Congratulations to her. We want to give you a programming note. We'll be carrying a special news conference at 2 o'clock right here on the Digital Center with the governor on the Maui wildfire recovery. Aloha.